On the phone, we have one of the Marx Brothers. You see, when I think of the Marx Brothers, I think of this guy. When my co-host thinks of him, he's in his late 60s. He thinks of the comedians.
I think Groucho, Harpo, Zeppo, now Chico. Different Marx Brothers.
But again, one of the greatest receivers of all time. He caught passes from my former favorite quarterback of all time, Dan Marino. Mark Clayton, how you doing today, Mr. Clayton?
Fine. How you guys doing?
Good. Great. It seems like only yesterday you were catching passes from Marino.
Yeah, it hasn't been. I don't think it's been that long, but it's been a while though. But it feels like it hasn't been.
You played college ball at Louisville. Were there other schools after you at that time, or was Louisville basically the school you wanted to go to?
Yeah, I had tons of schools. It was Louisville and Indiana State.
They weren't interested in a 5'9", 177-pound receiver?
No, because when I came out of school, I was about 150 pounds.
Oh, okay.
So they didn't, I don't think that it was, such thing back then as a 5'9", 150-pound wide receiver that could run like I could. So I had two offers, and I went with the best of the two. So it all turned out.
What was the Louisville experience like for you?
Louisville was fun, though. Back then, when I first got around there, Vince Gibson was my head coach, and then after my freshman year, he left to go on to coach Tulane, and then Bob Weber came in and took his place, and back then we was more of a ground and pound kind of game, and not really passing the ball much. But after Coach Gibson left and Bob Weber took over, then we started getting in some better talent at the quarterback position, and then we went from a run-happy team to about a 50-50 run in the pass. And I just went on to do good things there my junior year, and then my senior year, then I caught for 1,000 yards, and the rest, as they say, is history.
I would say you're the greatest player to play at Louisville, but I can't slight Johnny Unitas.
Oh, right. No, I don't think I could take credit for being the greatest player to play at Louisville.
But you had some good players on your teams. You had Frank Minifield. I mean, you had Otis Wilson there, maybe for a year. Dwayne Woodruff.
Yeah, Eddie Johnson, Joe Jacoby. We had some guys that came out there that made it. So I wasn't the only one to put them on the map. There were several other guys that come from there. But now they're putting them in there left and right. Their program is way better than the program is when I was there. And
now, as a sophomore, you caught 15 passes after catching one as a freshman, and then your junior year you had 27, and your senior year you had 53. What took them so long to realize they should be throwing the ball to you more and more?
Well, we really didn't have much other than that on the offensive side of the ball, and like I said, we had this young kid that named Dean May out of Tampa, Florida, to come there, and he could throw the ball pretty good. So I guess they felt like they will take advantage of the talent that those two guys have and try to win some games with it.
Did you have any idea the Dolphins were interested in drafting you?
Well, after my senior year, the scouts would come to the school and work me out and work Frank Minifield out, and there was another guy there that he didn't make it in the NFL, but he did get drafted, Richard Thorpe, and Elbert DeBinion. I can remember this like it was yesterday. Elbert DeBinion was the scout for the Dolphins at that time, and when he came to work me out, and he was saying, yeah, we're going to get you. He said, you watch, we're going to get you. And he was saying it along with the Steelers scouts, and a few more other scouts were saying that, we'll consider you also. And they was saying that I was projected to go in the rounds between rounds 4 through 6 and end up dropping to round 8. So I guess when it came around time for the Dolphins to make their selection, they figured, well, what the heck, it's the 8th round. We don't have anything to lose, so we'll just take a shot at him and draft this kid. And when I got the call, he had Elbert Devinian to make the call, and he said, "Hey, Mark, this is Doobie." He says, "What did I tell you? I told you we were going to select you." He said, "We selected you in the 8th round. Hold on, here's Coach Shula." And he put Coach Shula on the phone. And the rest is history.
Did you know who Albert Devinian was? You know, he was a pretty good football player back in the day.
No, I had never heard of Elbert Devinian, but then after I had got there, I did some research on this guy because they had said he was a good football player, and by the way, he was a good football player. After I went back and done some of my homework to realize who I was talking to then.
Yeah. And they didn't have things like Google back then, so you could look it up right away either.
Absolutely, you're right, because I had to do my homework. I had to go to the library and look it up in some books.
When you joined the Dolphins, I mean, Dan was coming off his rookie year. He had Mark Duper, who had a big season in '83, and his other receiver was kind of getting old, Nat Moore. Did you realize that you were going to basically share the wide receiver position with Mark Duper, or did you have to earn that?
Well, when I first got there, Duper had already been there a year, and Dan and I came in the same year. And after I made the team, Duper wasn't even playing then either at the time, and he was running down on special teams like I was. But then my first game in my NFL regular season game, Tommy Vigorito went down with a torn ACL, so then I started returning the punts then. And then later on in that game, Jimmy Cephalo went down as well with a torn ACL. And then I was coming in on third down. I was the third down wide receiver at that time, so I got my feet wet early. And after that, my rookie season, we used to play in these off-season basketball games, and I rode to a game with Nat Moore, and Nat Moore was telling me, he says, "Let me tell you what's going to happen, kid." He said, "You and Duper are going to be the starters." He says, "And I don't mind that, even though that you'll be sitting me down on the bench, but," he said, "I don't mind coming in on third down." He said, "And what I'm going to do when you guys are, become the starters, I'm going to teach. My job is going to be to teach you guys everything I know." I said, "Hey, man, that's nice." He said, "Yeah." He said, "Because I'm a good guy like that." He says, he says, he said, "And the reason why I'm going to teach you guys everything I know," he said, "because you all are going to add some years to my career." He said, "Because I don't mind coming in on third down." He said, "But I'm going to play another 4 or 5 more years just coming in on third down because you guys are going to take care of that, right, the starting job, and I'll come in and just play the backup to you guys if one of you guys get hurt and just come in on third down." So it worked out pretty good.
Yeah, because Nat Moore would only have to get hit, about a third or a quarter of the time as if he had been a starter. When you got there, David Woodley was the starting quarterback, and it took a while into that rookie season for Marino to be the starter. Could you tell from practice that he was as good as he was and that Marino should be the starter?
Well, I had the pleasure of playing against Marino in college for like a couple of seasons. My junior and senior year, we played against him. So I know he was good then, but I didn't really realize how really good he was until I got to catch passes from him once we got there. But he was looking good in practice, but I didn't know that he was going to really pan out to be as really good as he was. But it was a very good move by Coach Shula to really pull that trigger on Dan Marino, drafting Marino in the first place, and he came out looking like the great coach that he is too on that deal also.
Because Woodley had just taken the Dolphins to the Super Bowl, so I mean he basically was pretty established there.
Yeah, you're right. They did just go to the Super Bowl the year before that we got there, but I don't know exactly what really made Coach Shula. We were playing against the Saints my rookie season, and we wasn't playing well the first half. And so then he just finally decided to make that move. He says, okay. He said, Marino, you're going to start the second half, and Duper, you're going to start the second half. And it turned out they had a great second half. We came back and we won that game. And then the next week, they were starting, both of them. And I didn't get to start until the next year, but I was playing a lot. So I knew that he really liked some of the things that I brought to the table as well, even though I wasn't a starter until my second year.
Now, your second year, you had 73 receptions, 18 touchdowns. Did you make a bond with Marino, or what led to all the early success?
Well, it came down to a trust factor. I believe that Dan, he trusted in me because we got there the same year, and we worked our way up the depth chart, even though he beat me to the starting lineup before I did. But it was just a thing that we practiced together, and he saw that I was capable of making some big plays, and the league was well aware of Dan Marino and Mark Duper my second year because of the success that they had the year before. So I think that they were really overly concerned about Duper beating them deep and double covering him, and they really didn't know what I was capable of, and I just took advantage of the single coverage that they were giving me, and just made the best of it.
Who was Dan's go-to receiver? Was it you or Duper when he wanted to get that first down?
Well, Duper had that vertical speed and that vertical kind of game, and I just wanted to catch the ball, so I don't care about where I caught it. I used to, take pride in going over the middle and catching it and getting the first downs. But, I don't know if I was his go-to guy, but if we wanted the sticks moved, then I feel like that he would really center on me and my routes and my pass catching ability. If we needed a big play, a big home run deep down the field, then I believe Duper was his guy then.
So your second season, you have this tremendous success. You guys make it to the Super Bowl. What's that like for a young player to be at the NFL's biggest game that quickly in his career?
Unbelievable. You really to get a taste of that kind of success and playing on the biggest stage of my career on any level at that early stage in my career. I think that, I may have taken it a little for granted back then when I was playing in that game, thinking like, wow, I'm playing in the Super Bowl and only my second year. I'm definitely going to play in about 4 or 5 more now if I'm getting here this early. But it just goes to show you that it's easier said than done, and it takes a lot of hard work to get there. And got close after that year right there. Played in a couple more AFC Championship games after that. But it just, like I said, it just goes to show you how much hard work it takes, and how much of a team that you got to have to make it to that stage again.
I remember watching it Super Bowl because the Dolphins were my team because of you and Marino, but that wasn't fair. To let San Francisco play, in essence, in their backyard, I mean, that was an unfair advantage. No other team had done that before.
I agree. Even though, like I say, I didn't realize exactly the magnitude of that game back then. I knew about the Super Bowl, but I really felt like that it was kind of unfair. It was like playing in Candlestick Park because Palo Alto is right there by San Francisco, and we had to endure the hounding of the fans by coming to the hotel and hanging out and stuff and harassing us. And those guys had got the pleasure to stay at home in their own bed for the week.
What was Coach Shula like leading up to the Super Bowl? He'd been there before, some of you guys had not. So did he try to make this just another week, or?
Well, no. It's never just another week when you're playing in the Super Bowl, contrary to what some players say. That's the biggest game of their career, and it's not just like any other game. And Coach Shula was, pretty pretty laid back, but he was a coach of the type that likes to pay attention to the details, and he just tried to get us prepared as best he could, and as well as he thought that he needed to really prepare us. And I think we were prepared to play in that game. I just think that we were just outmatched. They were a better team than we were on that day.
Because Coach Shula, throughout his career, was known as a coach who liked to run the ball and win with defense. I mean, he changed his whole philosophy when he had you and Duper and Marino there.
Well, yeah, because we really didn't have much of a running game my whole career there, and I guess if you don't have much of a running game and offense is about running and passing, if you don't have a running game, so I guess you have to go with what you have, the hand that you have dealt, and go with that and try to do the best you can with the players that you have. And I think that that's not a bad hand to have when you got Dan Marino and the Marks brothers outside.
If you have Dan Marino and you're running the ball, something's wrong.
I agree, and Dan used to always say sometimes we used to have some chances where there were some chances where some other guys would say, Dan, the offensive line would say, you could have ran for that first down, or you could have ran for that touchdown right there, and he says they didn't bring you here to run the ball.
Now, what was it like in the aftermath of losing in the Super Bowl?
Well, like I said, I hated to lose that game. I felt like that we could have won that game had we played our very, very best game. And I think that's what it was going to have to take for us to win that game, because they were a very talented football team. But unfortunately, someone had to win and someone had to lose. And, losing is never fun, but you just got to take from that experience and try your best to, if you get another chance, to do some of the things differently that you didn't get a chance to do in the first place.
Being from Chicago, the 85 Bears Super Bowl, the only team that scared me that season was the Dolphins, and you guys proved why when you handed the Bears their only loss. What was that game like?
Oh, that was an unbelievable game. The crowd there in the Orange Bowl was louder than any other crowd I've ever heard in any part of the time that I played down there in the Orange Bowl. You saw a lot of the guys from the 17-0 team. They were coming to practice. They were on the sideline at the game. Really felt very confident that week that we had a great week of practice. I felt like going into that game that we really had something that they really couldn't really defend. We watched them, how they blitzed the other teams and just really made other offenses look just downright just mediocre. But they had never faced the likes of Dan Marino with his quick release and the two receivers outside that could get open against man-to-man. But the key to that game was really just giving Dan enough time for him to throw the ball, because from film that we had watched throughout the season, a lot of the quarterbacks that they played against, they wasn't given enough time to do anything, and it made their defensive backs not have to cover that long, and they looked like world beaters. But Coach Shula had a great game plan that week. I think we went to 3 wide against them the whole game. We never had the tight ends on our team. They didn't play at all. And the only people that called passes on that night was myself, Mark Duper, and Nat Moore, the only people that called passes that night. And it worked out pretty good, but I was just really kind of a little upset that we didn't really get a chance to get in that second loss. We were played in New England, the AFC Championship game, and they hadn't lost. They hadn't won a game in the Orange Bowl in years, and just so happened, I think that we couldn't have played a worse game. We were well prepared, but I think that we just didn't play our best game, and I kind of really got a sign of that from the opening kickoff when we fumbled the opening kickoff and they recovered it. And I don't think it was a rainy, slippery field. And I think it went all downhill from that opening kickoff.
Well, you guys couldn't have done any worse in the Super Bowl than what the Patriots did. And I think a lot of people would have, especially in Chicago, would have liked to seen a rematch against Miami.
Oh, I would have liked to saw that too, as well, too, because I feel like that since we beat them once, I believe that we could have beat them again.
That undefeated Dolphins team, how happy were they when you guys won? Was it like they won that game against the Bears?
Absolutely, they was, because they saw how good of a football team that the Bears was, and I know that they were really shaking in their boots that had we not beat them, that there's possibly that they could have ran the table the rest of the way.
So did Mercury Morris buy you champagne or anything when you guys won?
No, but they were inside the locker room and stuff, you know, as if, like you said, as if they had won the game. But they didn't pop champagne bottles with us or anything.
What I never got was with Dan Marino, he bought his offensive lineman isotoner gloves. Eric Dickerson bought his lineman Rolex watches. Did you ever go to Dan? Why don't you spend a little of that money you're earning? You're making a lot more money than Eric Dickerson.
No, I guess, that was the way Eric wanted to handle it, and that's the way Dan handled it. I guess, they feel like, hey, we get a paycheck anyway, so he didn't have to buy the guys anything. So, I think that it was just a pleasure of doing that job and watching him, see him perform at his best as well. So that was just as good as anything that he could have bought.
Now, that 85 season, you caught only 4 touchdowns. Your receptions were about the same. But you had gone from 18 to 4 touchdowns. Is that just a quirk, or is it being targeted at different times?
Well, I think that they really knew who I was, and they went from that single coverage. I think I went from that to drawing double coverage the rest of my career after that year right there.
Do you ever think to yourself, if you were playing in today's game, you might get 2,000 yards receiving and like 25 touchdowns? Because these defensive backs can't touch the receivers nowadays without getting a penalty called.
No doubt about it. We played and played back there in the era where they could arm bar you, they could grab you, they could hold you, they could jam you 10, 12 yards down the field. But mind you, those rules were in effect when we were playing. They just wasn't rarely enforced. So now, with them enforcing rules, I think that I could have had a lot more loftier stats, because they want to see the offensive numbers skyrocketing, because that's why they are enforcing those rules, because a lot of people, the fans that pay their money, they don't want to come and see a defensive struggle kind of game. They want to see a ball in the air and points on the board, like we saw Sunday with Ben Roethlisberger throwing the 6 touchdowns and Tom Brady throwing the 5 touchdowns. Those guys were just spraying the ball all over the place, and that's what the fans want to see today.
Now, by the time the 88 season rolls around, 88, you get 14 touchdowns. Had they stopped double covering you at that juncture?
No, they didn't. I just really was starting really to understand it really, really well how to beat the double team. They didn't stop doubling us at that time, but we found out ways to how to beat the double team a lot better, and that's what we did.
Now that season you had a career high 86 receptions. Was that better than the 84 season? What was your best season, do you think?
Well, statistically wise, it has to be the 84 year, because I think I had almost 1,400 yards receiving and 18 touchdowns. I don't think the catches just in that 88 season, I think was my highest reception total, but as far as statistical wise, I think 84 is just hands down much better. When I was across the board with I had the 73 catches or 72 catches and 1389 and 18 touchdowns. I don't think that I could say that any other season was better than those numbers right there.
What cornerback gave you the hardest time?
Well, I'd like to say, I had several cornerbacks that really gave me, a hard time. But, going into those games, knowing that they were that good, that made me work that much harder in practice. And I like to go up against the best. Mike Haynes was one of the best that covered me, and Everson Walls was a good guy. You had Lester Hayes.
No one wanted to be covered by Lester, though. He had all that stick him on, and he'd get it all over the ball, all over you. No one wanted to go near him.
Well, you know what, though? Lester was big, and he just really, if you didn't let Lester get his hands on you and grab you and hold you, Lester was beatable. But the point is, that guy was just so hard to really kind of get around those guys. But for the most part, those three guys that I named, those guys were big corners. And, if they got their hands on you, like I said, back then, they could grab you and hold you and stuff then, and no call. You would get no call. But those guys were very big physical kind of cornerbacks that really kind of gave me the blues. But I relished that challenge. I used to love to go up against those guys because I know I would have to bring my A game going up against those guys. And if I beat those guys and look good against those guys, I would get the respect that I deserve.
What about Ronnie Lott?
At that time, Ronnie Lott was he was a corner, but Ronnie Lott didn't have the speed. He wasn't as fast as those guys, but he was more the physical kind of corner that would, if you caught the ball in front of him, he'd come up and try to knock your head off. But and later on in our career, when I did go up against him, they moved him from corner to safety, but he was playing corner in that Super Bowl. And I talked to Ronnie Lott and Eric Wright. We became pretty decent friends even while we were playing, and they told me that their game plan in the Super Bowl, they were saying that, our game plan for the Super Bowl was to play off you guys and not let you guys do what y'all had been doing the whole season, which was running past guys and making big plays. Our goal was to play off you guys, let you all catch it in front of y'all, and then come up and make the tackle. Sort of like the game plan that Seattle had last year when they played Denver in the Super Bowl.
Now, the 1991 season, you're 30 years old, getting to be an old man. 70 receptions, 12 touchdowns. Did you feel like you had turned into Nat Moore at that point?
No, because 30 years old is not old, but it's getting old in football standards. So I still had young legs. 30 years old. 30 was the new 20 back then. So, so no, I just wasn't ready to really even think that I was getting old. So I still had to show the world that I still could do it.
What was the key to your success as a receiver, other than having, your outstanding athletic ability?
I think I had a great work ethic. I think that I got out of my craft what I put into my craft. I think I worked hard off the field, and I thoroughly loved the game. And I think that those can be two attributing factors of why I've done so well, because I enjoyed the game and I worked hard.
When you joined the Packers, they had a young Brett Favre. Did you see the greatness that he would achieve when you were with him?
No, I thought just the opposite. I didn't know that he was going to be that good, even though he was okay, because he just was young and he wasn't throwing me any passes, even though I caught a few passes from him. And I never thought that he was going to become the student of the game that it became, but it wasn't until Sterling Sharp got hurt while he was playing for them that Brett Favre became the player that he became.
Favre had the raw talent, but as you say, it took a while for it to, I guess, mature.
Absolutely, because like I said, he had depended so much on Sterling Sharp bailing him out when he wasn't reading the coverage properly, or when he break out of the pocket and start running, then he would really just be focusing on Sterling Sharp instead of really reading his progressions throughout the play.
How are you not? Go ahead.
But he later on he became he became the player that not just with raw talent to become a player to take advantage of that raw talent and work with the players that he had and achieve the greatness. Why
are you not in the Hall of Fame? I don't understand this.
I don't either. That's a $100 million question. I don't think that they have they don't have a protocol or barometer of what it takes to be a Hall of Fame.
Yeah, well, you were saying that I don't know what the barometer is for that Hall of Fame because, again, Andre Reed got in last year, and it didn't make any sense. You had better stats than he did in the time period you played.
Well, like I said, if you all can research that out and let me know why I'm not really getting any serious consideration, then I'd appreciate that. I know that there's a lot of guys out there that's well-deserving as well, but right now, like I said, from the way it looks now, this past happy league that we have, I think that my numbers are going to start getting dwarfed by all these other receivers that's playing in this era right here. And if I'm not mistaken, I think that Marino might be the only quarterback in the Hall that doesn't have a player that he has thrown to, whether it be a running back or a tight end or a receiver, that if the quarterback's in, one of those other guys that are in the Hall of Fame as well, somebody that they throw to. And I don't know why that, like I say, I'm not getting any consideration. But, it would truly be an honor. It's not my call for me to put myself in the Hall. But anytime they're ready, I'll answer that phone when they call.
Well, no, like you say, there is offensive number inflation that's occurred over the years. And, once upon a time, your 18 touchdowns in '84 was the NFL record. So
absolutely. And when I left the game, my 84 career touchdowns, I was in the top 10.
And probably 9 out of those top 10 are in the Hall of Fame at that time.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. You're right. It's a lot. There's plenty other guys that are in. I think maybe 20 receivers in the Hall. I think my numbers are just as good, if not better, across the board than 15 of those guys.
What you got to do is get a job on ESPN or CBS, do pre and post game, and promote yourself like these other guys have been doing. Chris Carter.
Hey, do you have a hookup on any of those networks? Hey, I'll take a gig. Hey, that's what everybody's telling me too. You're not the first to say that. They say you need to get on TV. But if you got a hookup, David, hey, you got my number, man. I'm available.
So I'm trying to get your former quarterback on for an interview. CBS fired him, and he won't do any interviews now.
Oh, I don't know why he won't, but he was part of the media then, so he was readily available to talk. I don't know why he shouldn't be readily available to talk now. Maybe I can get him.
Sounds good. He's selling a lot of wine. I see that him and I think Brock Heward opened up a winery.
Yeah, he told me about that a few months ago, and I don't drink wine, but he said he's gonna send my wife a case of wine, and they drink wine together when we were doing an appearance somewhere, and they were drinking that Opus One, and she was telling them how good they were, and he was bragging on he and Brock's wine, said, "Oh, it's way better than Opus One."
Hopefully, he was paying for it with the quarterback money because that Opus One isn't cheap.
Yeah, we went out with he and his wife, and he picked up the tab and he was saying drink as much wine as she wanted. She could have kept drinking. So I guess I don't know how much it cost.
Now, you did make it into the Miami Dolphins Ring of Honor in 2003. What was that day like?
That was an amazing day. I think that's quite an accomplishment. I was able to take my family, on the field and be out there when they put my name up there, and my kids were there as well, and to see my name up there in the end zone, and they know that when they go to the game that they'll always see their dad's name in the stadium, and I was very appreciative of that honor right there.
What was it like catching that pass from Dan Marino at the Hall when he went in?
Hey, man, that was great. I thought that I was going to be getting up there on the stage there with him, donning a jacket. I said, hey, this gives me a little more exposure. He's there, and they see who he's thrown to, so maybe they'll get me up there on the stage with that jacket soon.
Did
He called my name out of the blue, and I wasn't expecting any of that, and hey, I still could catch.
You caught it. You don't want to drop that pass.
No, not that one. That was, we can't do a redo on that right there. You can only get one chance to do it. So just like in the games, it's a fourth down catch right there. You don't get any more catches, any more downs if you drop that.
Did Duper give you a hard time saying, you know what? Why did I get one of those passes?
Yeah, he gave it to Dan, and so I think it was we were there in Miami for some other occasion. And Dan said, the dude said, hey, man, you threw Clayton a pass at the Hall of Fame. Now throw me my pass. And he wanted his turn and to catch a pass from Marino for the last time, and he did that.
When you went to Green Bay, did you know that was going to be your last season?
No, I didn't. I felt like I still could play. But when I'm working my butt off in practice and not getting balls in games and getting open in games and still not getting balls, when I go there with a 95 consecutive game with a catch and it gets snapped, not by me dropping passes or them covering me where I don't get a pass thrown my way the whole game. It kind of like really took the joy out of the game from me. I really stopped feeling, the way I felt on Sunday because I couldn't wait for game day. I used to love Sundays. And when that joy is taken from you or you stop feeling the same way that you normally do on work day, then I think it's time for you to really seriously consider just stepping aside.
So what are you doing now?
Well, I do a sports talk radio on Yahoo Sports on the weekends, and just really I'm a taxi for my kids. One of my sons in the marching band. I feel like I'm in the marching band and they're on the basketball team. So I'm just really just being a busy dad and just enjoying life. Looking for that job on one of the networks, Fox Sport 1, CBS, NFL Network, ESPN. I'm looking for one of those kind of gigs.
Tough to come by.
Yeah, they are, and that's why when you see guys that's on the networks, you don't see hardly any of those guys just up and say, I don't want to do this anymore. When they get those gigs, they keep those gigs, and I don't blame them.
No, I mean, you look at these guys and they get more gigs. Like Strahan, he goes from Regis and Michael, or Kelly and Michael, to Good Morning America.
Yeah, absolutely. He doesn't need all those gigs. I could do one of those. He just needs one of those.
Right, he doesn't need to take everything.
He can let me have his job on Sunday, and he can keep his Michael and Kelly and Good Morning America. And let me go to that job on Fox on Sundays. I can talk football.
Exactly. You probably know more than he does because those defensive linemen aren't that smart compared to receivers.
No, but I guess they like the gap.
The gap in his teeth, yeah.